Well, welcome to ATGLive. I'm Pete Fletcher. I'm one of your hosts. I'm here with Nick Milky. As always, Nick, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing wonderful. And that explosion has become my new favorite thing coming out of like any tradition, anything else. Like, hey, the show's about to start. Kaboom. You know,
Kaboom. Get ready.
Up. We're about to blow up your Thursday.
Something's going to blow up. It might be the show. It might
Could
be us. I don't know. I have no idea what it's going to be. But hey, tonight we have a really fun show planned for you. We're going to do the news. We're going to do Snowtoberfest. We're going to talk to our friend Holly Frey, who has a brand new book out, which involves drinking. So it's perfect for us. So we'll be making some cocktails and telling you where you can get this awesome book. And let's see, what else is there? Oh yeah. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, rate, review the show, all that stuff. And if you're watching on YouTube below, you'll see you can buy stuff now from us right from your YouTube channel without ever having to move. We have a Snowtoberfest glass there. We have t-shirts. We have sweatshirts. We have I'm not afraid to sell anything. I'll sell stickers. If we could do hockey pucks, I would do hockey pucks. Maybe that's what we will do. But we will be done around top of the hour tonight because we got a Flyers game tonight, so I got to check that out. No, it's we can't let the Flyers dictate our show, but we might. So
we can try.
Nick, you have a good week this week?
I had a great week. It's as always, they're running by quickly. All of a sudden, October's halfway over with.
Yeah.
Life, kids, work, all the things, all the grown-up nonsense, which is why Thursday night is such an oasis in the middle of the week to hang out, drink, talk about Star Wars news, talk about how I'm sure Mon Mothma blew everybody away in sports ball this week.
That's why I was asking. I was asking to see how you're feeling this week
because you're about to kick the feet out from under me.
Because Mon Milky was in full effect this week. So for those of you who've been watching for the last 10 weeks, we have been doing something we've been calling our Fantasy Sports Ball League. And basically the rules were as follows. It was myself, it was Nick, and it was our friend Kelsey Puckett from ESPN. And we had 11 different categories of Star Wars types of characters, droids, ships, whatever. We did a draft 11, 12 weeks ago. And we've been running the league every single week. And Nick, this week we were going head to head from a Rebels perspective. I played a video last week. I won't play it again, but it was the only pick of the draft that got a laugh because this week's question was of these, who is your favorite rebel? And here's how the voting went this week. So Harrison Dula came in second, which is actually a very strong showing, especially because I think when I put rebels in the hashtag, people were probably like, oh, from the show? Absolutely. Right. But I mean, Hera's a great pick. Hera is, she's Space Mom. We love her. Yes. I picked Leia Organa because, well, there's no others. That's the best choice. And Nick, you picked Mon Mothma for some reason, and it didn't pay off that well for you this week. Any comments, any thoughts? Did it go the way you expected?
I was robbed. This election was rigged. We are going to peacefully storm the
fake news
temple in Peru or whatever it is that we need to do. It probably went how I expected. I do think she is a fantastic rebel. Here's my question to you, bouncing it back. If I had picked Jyn Erso instead of Mon Mothma, how much do you think my chances would have improved? Not enough, obviously.
I'm going to say
did Jyn stand a better chance with Hera?
I think you might have gotten to 20. You might have taken a couple away from me and Kelsey, but not enough. So, but here's where the standings are. We have 1 week left in the season. We have 1 week left in this annual or inaugural sports ball. And here's the standings, Nick. You're going to love this. My team has pulled ahead by 31 points. 31 points. I have the most wins, so if it's a tie, I'm going to get it through the tiebreaker. Unfortunately, Kelsey is mathematically eliminated because the most points you can get in any week is 100. But I do think she's going to win this upcoming week because this week we're doing pilots. And here's who picked which pilot. Kelsey had the first pick, and she picked Han Solo as her pilot. That's a fantastic pick.
Can't argue with that.
You can't argue with Han Solo. I picked Chewie because he's the best co-pilot in the galaxy, and you picked Carson Teva, which I think is actually a really strong pick. I think Carson, I don't think he's going to win, but I think he's going to edge out Chewie.
I have a secret strategy up my sleeve, and I can't wait to see if it pays off. But Paul Sun Young Lee, Carson Teva himself, is a friend of the show.
Yes.
I'm hoping to appeal to all of his fans and friends on Twitter, and I'm going to hope we're going to get a spread retweet campaign going on that's going to make this the surprise sleeper victory.
It is the final week of the season. You have to make up 31 points, which means that Chewie has to get murdered this week. Yeah. But it's still a possibility. It's still quite.
And really, a Kelsey victory works in my favor as well, because as long as I can get 31 and get ahead of Chewie.
Yeah. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be
away from Chewie at this point.
Well, I think it's going to be a good ending. I think next year, we'll have to talk about how we can improve this for next year, but I'm excited to
feel like we can bring a couple more of our friends in. We mentioned it to Corey. I think Flair could be interested in this particular activity.
Yeah.
There's some good ways to go with this.
Absolutely. Well, we are, the best way to celebrate a victory is by doing what you do in October. So why don't we get to that?
I have been every voice you have ever heard inside your head.
It is Snoketoberfest, and our guest just walked away. She was like, "Yeah, I'm not doing this." But we're gonna have two people joining us for Snoketoberfest tonight. So let's bring in our first one. It's our guest for the show tonight, but we'll bring her in a little bit early and say hello. Hi, Holly.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I like that my ice machine just kicked on to make it extra noisy.
Absolutely.
Over here.
It adds to the ambient cantina vibe that you clearly have going on there.
Yeah, we need what would be great would be to have just a little bit of Figrin Dan playing in the background. If I had
blaster fire,
if I'd worked this up, I would have been ready for that. But a
little bit of a fisticuff.
Yeah, chopping off somebody's arm, saying we don't like you. But that's great. I want to bring in our next guest, but she's not there.
She clearly had to step away for a quick second, so we're going to continue to.
We'll continue the madness here, but maybe tell the story of Snoketoberfest a little bit. Maybe tell the tale. I don't know. Is there a history to?
The history of Snoketoberfest is quite simple. At some point, several years ago, on a episode of Shooting the Poodoo with the Bro Axiom crew, I was on. It was me. It was Chris. It was Jackson. Claire was actually there. Dan was there. I don't remember who the other person was, but we had a lineup, and we decided. I think Jackson actually introduced this idea of you have to drink the beer before the Snoke line finishes from Rise of Skywalker, and so I was like, drinking games, I'm in. So we started, and the clip I found it recently. There's about a 5-minute clip that I think Chris edited together from that night. And I think over the course of that night total, I did 6 Snoketoberfest chugs.
Yikes.
And I was clearly much younger and much better at drinking at the time, because it wasn't light beer. It was like actual Oktoberfest beer, which was heavy. And you could see the quality of like how everybody was doing as the night went on. And like Dan started falling off and slurring his speech. And my favorite was pretty early on. There's a quote that Chris says at one point. He goes, "Look at these fools," as we're all downing beers with action figures in it. And it just then became a annual tradition, something fun that we love to do. And it's, last year it spilled over into November. We had Snokevember. We ended up with Darth Simber.
I don't see a reason why we can't do that either again this year.
We finished the last 3 months of the year chugging beer because we have nothing better to do with our time. And speaking of Snoketoberfest, our special guest for the evening is here, ready to go. We've got to get her in here.
Oh,
the lovely Claire Stribling.
Angel.
Oh, I heard that we're talking about killer cocktails this evening.
I just so happen to have a copy handy.
I just so happen to have one. You could buy it online on Amazon. You can get it on Barnes and Noble. You can get any major bookseller near you. Just saying, it's available.
That's right. That's it.
Praise you.
But speaking of available, Claire, you will no longer be available after this week because you are getting married this weekend, correct?
Isn't that crazy?
Wow. Our little girl's all grown up now. It's
Sweet baby angel has flown the coop, flown the nest, whatever the metaphor is. Anyway.
We are excited that we can Snoketober with you to celebrate that. So Nick, I'll turn it over to you for this.
We're going to get right to it. Claire, you've been a great friend of the show for a long time. We got to hang out in California. You've always been great to hang out and help with Potathon. And we're so excited for you in this new stage of life. You're getting married. We know you're moving. You have a whole bunch going on. Nothing crazy at all, I'm sure. I'm sure you're very calm.
Sure.
Nothing that chugging a beer in 9 seconds won't help. And so we wanted to celebrate you tonight. And so our Snoketoberfest is going to be to you, Claire. Mine is actually in a Beatles glass. That's going to come back here in just a little while. But for everybody watching at home, you take your glass, drop your Snoke in, head first, feet first, totally up to you. Look at that. Claire's got a Poe Dameron. And Pete is going to...
I'm sorry.
It's
going to hit our
Oktoberfest, I guess.
Oktoberfest.
Yes, exactly.
So we're raising this close to you, Claire. We're so excited for you and Ethan. And Pete, if you will hit the drop, it's cheers and Snokes up.
Snokes up.
I have been every voice you have ever heard inside your head.
Is it possible I'm getting worse at this every week?
Who can do that?
Nick can do it. That's the weird part. Nick never misses.
Oh my!
Although I lost to Buttercream Dream last week. Like I was halfway done and he put his glass down. Like that's a guy who grew up in rural Georgia and knows how to chug a beer.
We gotta sports center that thing and just watch how he did it and assess it and figure that out.
Yes.
But
so much fun. Claire, we know you have a million things going on. You've got family in town. We're so excited.
I have in-laws in the other room.
They must be so proud.
Excuse me, your future daughter-in-law has to go chug a beer in 9 seconds with some friends on the internet.
I definitely did not explain. I was like, I got a thing.
I just need to step in here. Yeah. What happened? Why did the wedding get canceled on Thursday? Well, I went to chug a beer with my friends on the internet.
It's a long story. But...
And then they go, and how is this Star Wars related?
And just belch really loudly as you re-enter the sofa.
Yep. Okay, we're good now.
Absolutely. Well, awesome. Well, Claire, thank you so much. It's great to see you. I'm so glad I can say congratulations in person, as close to in person as this is. And we wish you all the best, and we can't wait to see pictures of the blushing bride.
Oh, don't worry. You'll get them. And thank you guys for even inviting me. And I was so excited that I was also invited on Holly Frey week. Oh my God. Look at the timing of that. But yeah, thank you guys. It's been fun. I'll have to finish this now.
That's right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We wish y'all nothing but the best, and we will definitely see you soon.
Congratulations, Bear.
Congrats. Well, we're gonna take a short break, and we're gonna come back and do the news, and then we're gonna bring Holly back in to hang out with us, make some cocktails, and just have a little bit of fun. So we'll be right back with more ATG Live. Well, welcome back to ATG Live, your Thursday night home for all things Star Wars. We do the news, we do crazy toasts with action figures in our glasses, and we're gonna do a little mixology later tonight. You get it all here on ATG Live. But the other thing we do, Nick, is we do the news, and we got some news stories tonight, and let's have some fun. are your source for all the Star Wars news of the week. And this week, there's a Star Wars Transformer. Jake Lloyd has been seen. Galen Erso may be coming back to Andor. And we have a little bit of Star Wars history in the Midwest. But Nick, let's start with our first story tonight. Star Wars Transformers are on the way. Hasbro has unveiled the latest addition to its Transformers collaborative series, Star Wars The Mandalorian N1 Starfighter. This exciting crossover toy combines the iconic N1 Starfighter from The Mandalorian with the transforming abilities of a classic Transformer standing about 7.5 inches tall. The figure converts between character mode and starship mode in 37 steps and includes multiple accessories such as 6 blast effects, 2 blasters, a shield, and a cape. The cape and shield cleverly transform into a display stand, holy cow, for showcasing the figure in starship mode. Unlike previous releases in the collaborative line, which often introduce new names, this figure retains the straightforward title of the slightly boring Mandalorian N1 Starfighter. Nick, guess the price. Do you know the price? Take a guess.
I do not know the price. I'm going to guess $39.99.
That's a great guess, and that's probably closer to what I'd be willing to pay for it. It's $55, and it is set to release in February of next year, exclusively through Hasbro Pulse and Walmart's Collector Con in the U.S. With the detailed design and impressive features, this figure is sure to be a hit with both Star Wars and Transformer fans. Nick, what do you think? Are you excited about the Star Wars Transformer?
I'm excited that somebody out there like Chris Ryans, who loves Transformers, is going to be excited about this. I'm a pretty simple man when it comes to Transformers. I feel like we peaked with the changeables, which were the McDonald's Happy Meal toys that were like a box of nuggets that turned into a weird little robot. This is not a toy or a collectible that is designed for me. I know they've done some of these in the past. I think there's a Millennium Falcon. I think there's a couple of it like 10, 15 years ago. Those are neat. Every now and then, if it pops up on an eBay search, I'm like, if that's less than $10, I might grab it because it's unique, but it's not something pressing. It's not something urgent for me. But that's the great thing about any property that you're interested in. It doesn't have to be for you. There's other things out there that are for you. There's Transformer lovers who are like, holy crap, my two worlds collide.
Well,
I think they start making, Star Wars whiskey, I'll be in business. But Transformers and Star Wars.
What are we waiting for, by the way? Let's get on the Star Wars whiskey thing. Let's buy a barrel, throw ATG on it, and
there are some labels on it.
But I think you're right. I think that's what, as you can tell by the way I read this story, this is not something it's funny. I've never gotten into Transformers. The movies are, my son loves the movies because they're insane, loud, crashing cars and robots killing each other, which is perfect. I remember the TV series, the cartoon when we were kids, the animated series. But I never really got into Transformers that much. But I think this, like, you look at somebody like Chris Ryans, who is huge Transformers fan, huge Star Wars fan. This is a dream come true for him. So I love your perspective on it. And I think that's the way to look at Star Wars.
There's only one transforming robot that matters to me, and it's R5 Drink More.
Yes.
Because he's a droid. He's a glass. He separates, you've got one singing back there. So if you're giving me a Star Wars droid that transforms, this is more my speed, my interest. But again, this is awesome. I'm excited for the people that are excited about this. It's just not one for me, and I'm more than okay with that.
Absolutely. And that's really what being a Star Wars fan is about, right? It's enjoying what you enjoy, and not, again, not going to give anybody a hard time for not loving this. So, or loving it, whatever they love, man. It's great. All right. Well, we have another story, and let's get to that here. And action. Okay. Sorry about that. The next story is Jake Lloyd, the former child star, best known for portraying young Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, has resurfaced in Los Angeles after over a year out of the public eye. Lloyd, who is now 34 years old, was spotted keeping a low profile as he visited a local gym, vaped, and recycled a protein shake container. This marks the first sighting of him since he completed treatment for schizophrenia earlier this year. Lloyd's mother, Lisa Lloyd, confirmed in March that her son had been receiving care at a mental health facility after a concerning incident in 2023, during which Jake turned off their car in the middle of the road, requiring police intervention. At the time, Lisa described Jake's communication as word salad, but shared that he is making significant progress in treatment. We had the story from our friend Clayton Sandell not too long ago, where he spoke directly to her. Lisa noted that her son had become more social and was starting to return to his old self, offering a hopeful outlook for his recovery. This recent outing suggests that Lloyd has concluded treatment and is ready for a fresh start. His schizophrenia diagnosis was first revealed in 2015 after several erratic incidents landed him both in jail and in the hospital. I was hesitant to bring this story up because this is not what Jake needs. Jake does not need to be out and having photographers snapping and being a human being, right? Vaping and drinking a protein drink and going to the gym. It's great that perhaps he's reached a new milestone, a positive milestone in his treatment, but this kind of thing makes me nervous that people are going to start, the TMZs of the world are going to stalk him. He's not. I don't want to be the bearer of dark news, but he's not going to get his Hayden Christensen moment. I don't think.
Right.
That's just not going to happen. And Nick, you've had experience with people with mental health issues. This kind of attention is not perfect for him, right?
It's not. It's a challenge. And when you texted me, I hadn't even read the story, but I knew where it was going. And it became that my immediate thought was, let's not do this. Not this one, not Jake. His mom said in that story that our friend Clayton wrote several months ago. I encourage you to go find it. It's on a script. It's on Scripps. Great story, great insight into a character and a person, a human being. This is not just a character on a screen. This is a human being who went through difficult things coming out of this movie, the criticism, the stuff that happened, that didn't cause the mental health issues he has. We know those are biological. There's a lot more involved there, but it doesn't help. And what she said in that article was she hopes, he even has said he hopes at some point that, maybe he could return to a convention, but the amount of triggers, the amount of external stimuli that go with crowds, noise, there's so much there. We want him to be happy. We want him to be healthy. We want him to live a good life, a quiet life, a life that helps his mind be quiet and him be the best person that he can be. And it's the nature of the beast with Hollywood and TMZ or anything else. Like, that's their job. They're going to swarm.
Sure.
I hope that the Star Wars fans that maybe see him or run in, I hope we don't fuel this fire as a Star Wars overall fandom. I hope that maybe this was an isolated event. He's able to, go work out. He deserves the opportunity to go work out and vape on the street if he wants to. But it's tough. So we want nothing but the best for him. He has provided something key and crucial to us as Star Wars fans. I'm always going to be thankful for him, not only for what he did, but what he had to go through after he did it. But he deserves to, live a safe and happy and quiet life. So I hope he is able to do that.
Absolutely. Yep. And look, as much as if you were to run into Jake Lloyd on the street, that's one of the rare times where I think, our Star Wars celebrities have been so good to people, and I'm sure he would be as well. But you know what? He needs his space. So let's move on to the next story. Our next story is Galen Erso may be making a return for Andor season 2. Mads Mikkelsen, he is coming up to he will be appearing at Star Wars Celebration in 2025, recently announced, and this has sparked speculation about his character Galen Erso returning to Andor in season 2. The event, set for April 18th through the 20th in Japan, will feature a host of Star Wars guests, including Alan Tudyk, who plays K2SO, Tamora Morrison, and Ashley Eckstein. The Andor season 2 premiering next year, fans are buzzing about Galen Erso's potential involvement, especially given the show's connection to the construction of the Death Star. Season 1 of Andor ended with a post-credit scene revealing the prisoners of Narkina 5 unknowingly working on parts of the Death Star. Galen Erso, the reluctant scientist behind the superweapon, played a pivotal role in Rogue One, secretly building a flaw into the Death Star's design that would lead to its destruction. Given season 1's tease of the Death Star, Mikkelsen's return seems highly possible, especially with Diego Luna confirming Ben Mendelsohn returning as Director Krennic. Though Felicity Jones, who played Jyn Erso, has denied returning, Galen's character was deeply motivated by protecting his daughter. Whether or not Jyn appears, her legacy may still impact the story in Andor Season 2, which premieres on Disney Plus next year. Nick, is Mikkelsen coming to Celebration Japan? Is that a sort of a guarantee that he's in Season 2? What are your thoughts?
I think it makes 100% sense. I think We don't have, and you may have just said it, I was briefly distracted by other human in this room. Do we have a release date for Andor yet? Do we believe early 25?
We don't
Okay,
have one.
so Celebration is in April. Is that right?
Okay. Yes, it's April 18th through the 20th.
Okay, so I would love to think we get Andor before that, and maybe Mads gets to celebrate being at Celebration. He's on the show. He's out. It's already out. It could be that we don't get Andor until May, right after Celebration, and maybe this is a part of that reveal, a trailer drop, or something like that. It makes every bit of sense in the world that he is going to be in this show, that this character is going to be in the show. A crucial part of Rogue One is the Ursos, both Galen and Jyn both. Felicity Jones, maybe especially late in the show, because as those, the year jumps, the time jumps, leading up to Rogue One, there could be some sort of tease of it. But I also don't think she's crucial to an Andor season 2 where he makes a lot more sense. So I say yes. I mean, we've gotten confirmation that Tudyk is going to be K2SO in season 2. We're going to see how that comes about. But it makes sense to me that Galen would show up also.
I think so too. I mean, I think if Krennic is going to be in the show, who was working on the Death Star, and
there's so many dynamics
there. Yeah, I mean, and honestly, here's the thing: I don't think it needs to be a major role. Like, give him, a piece of one episode. And again, they're also going in 4 3-year segments, correct? So, one of those years could be the year leading up, or when we don't know exactly when. We probably do. It's probably in one of the books that I haven't read, but the year that Galen stopped working on the Death Star to become a farmer, right? So, it would maybe we see the story of him quitting the project and leaving.
If we're getting 4 3-episode segments, because we know it's 12, and the way the lead up, I'm going to say, I'm just making a prediction because you know how well predictions go here. I'm going to say 3 of those 12 involve Galen Erso.
I think so too. Yeah, because they're doing them each of the 3 episode arcs is 1 year in the timeline. Correct. So it would be cool to kind of see why he left, and because you have all that ISB stuff going on, it would be very interesting to make that connection. So we shall see. All right, we have one story left here tonight, and this one is slightly funny. A month ago, followers of the Illinois State Historical Society's Facebook page were taken aback when their usual posts on state history were replaced with content from the Star Wars universe. A hacker had seized control of the page, renamed it Historical Society, and flooded it with memes, essays, and deep dives into the galaxy far, far away. Posts range from a discussion on Darth Vader's potential invincibility with Beskar as his armor, to debates over key battles in the Star Wars saga, leaving history buffs scratching their heads. For over a decade, the Society had built a devoted following of more than 7,000 people interested in Illinois history, and Executive Director William Furry admitted that the hack was unexpected, but noted, quote, "It's probably not the worst hack. It could have been a lot worse." The Society has since created a new Facebook page with about 175 followers and is working with Meta to shut down the old page, though the process has been slow. Furry emphasized that while Star Wars Takeover was innocuous, the focus remains on connecting with history enthusiasts. We want people who live in Illinois to understand the history and find us again. Nick, this is like my favorite dumb story that I have found in quite some time. And it's also fitting because we had Claire on, who's living in Chicago. What's your reaction to this story?
Well, this also speaks to me because if you remember, I am also native son of Illinois, born in Peoria, Illinois. That's right. I am an Illinoisan, I believe, is what we are.
Is that what we call you people?
Yeah. I think that's right. But yes, born in Peoria, Illinois, lived there till I was 10 years old, where we made the obvious logical move to Selma, Alabama.
Sure, makes sense.
I have a lot of family in Illinois. It's still obviously, I had no idea this story existed. You even texted me today and said, "Hey, our 4th story, it's a mystery. Don't look at it." This is wild, and I am here for it. This is the next version of Cerveza Cristal. Like, this thing that's existed, it's been out there, but nobody really knows about it because all of a sudden it just gets a little bit of attention. It's great. Whoever it was that responded from that Facebook group and said, "Yeah, it could have been a lot worse." Sure, we could have been exposing social security numbers or people's privates or any number of things, right? But instead, somebody floods a page with Star Wars things. It could be
I
way
like
worse. There was.
I like to believe that it was Claire. I think it was Claire. I don't know if that's,
That's
true.
right. I mean,
but I'm going
there's
with it.
enough evidence to make things circumstantial. It reminds me of there was a viral thing that happened years ago, 8 or 10 years ago, and it related to Twitter, where there was some big like business conference going on, and everybody at the business conference started like hashtagging like hashtag cats, and like it started this whole thing where like anybody who was tweeting about this conference, like cat pictures started showing up. And it became just enough of a viral thing that I had some friends that were at like a more localized conference for an industry they're in here.
Right.
And so a couple of people I know, including myself, tweeted something at our friends at this conference and did a similar thing. And they were like, we have to stop because it's going to get out of control. And it's going to become a thing. Like, that's that good fun. That's that good, like, it's kind of like a flash mob in a way. Like, it's a good positive. It doesn't hurt anybody. It's silly. Although it's going to impact their page with a lot of followers. And if my dad was following that page, he'd be confused for months, but that's okay.
I just want to see. Now I'm very curious about what the argument was. I mean, Vader with Beskar. That's a great conversation to have.
It's going to be one that's good. That's a thought that's going to fester a little bit.
Yeah, and again, it's good, clean fun. It's funny, and and look, there are a lot of Star Wars fans in Chicago. That's why they did Star Wars Celebration there. We'll put this call out there. If it was you, we'll have you on anonymously. We'll mess with your voice. We'll cover your face. We want to know. We want to talk. Let's do an expose on the Illinois state,
like QAnon, but Star Wars Facebook pages,
right? SAnon, maybe, I don't know. But yeah. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by Holly Frey. We're going to talk about her new book, and we're going to make some drinks. And I don't know how well I will do with making mine, but I will do my best, of course. But we'll be back in just a few minutes with more ATG Live.
This is proof right here, guys. If you're watching this, you will not meet nicer people. Whoop, I'm going to point up.
I think I'm the only person who's ever written Star Wars for film, television, books, and comics.
Rogue One was awesome. I love the Han Solo movie, and then of course I love the Mandalorians.
It's like, that's Big Starklighter's helmet. So how did you know? Because I'm a nerd.
We cast you, and I told casting, I said, get Earl Brown to be Tonti. Holy shit, I've recreated Deadwood in space.
The galaxy isn't growing to push people out. It's growing to let more people come in and find their love so that it's able to continue and create this connective tissue.
There's Mark Hamill, there's Harrison Ford, there's Carrie Fisher. We're doing Star Wars.
Yeah, and the Rancor bit hit, and I went running out of the theater screaming my head off.
And then you're just sitting with her as she's making dinner, outside of an abandoned AT-AT, at AT-AT, sorry.
I've placed information vital to the survival of the rebellion into the memory systems of this unit.
You have people like Favreau, Filoni, who are like, super fans, like everyone on this Zoom.
Cassie and Jim on the beach, and people are like, no. I can literally hear people that go, no.
But, I was doing my research, and Wedge was obviously a character that you had to use.
Spears never left me again. We're such soulmates that her being older and me being older was exactly where we were meant to be.
Coming back to a show that I dearly love and admire, so thanks for having me.
Because Darth Vader was the scariest thing that had ever happened to anybody, and this guy literally looks like the devil.
You don't do that. There is no trying.
I have had the best time ever on Around the Galaxy. Thank you so much.
That was one of the greatest intros ever. That was awesome. Oh my gosh, I have found my home. I have found my people.
Well, welcome back to ATG Live, your Thursday night home for all things Star Wars. And on the podcast feed, you can find those guests and I think like 147 others, something like that.
Yeah.
So make sure to follow us on your podcast stream. Make sure to like, subscribe, share this show. If you're on social media right now, go and share this because the drinking's about to start. It's a Thursday night party here on ATG Live. So why don't we bring in our guest, Holly Frey? Welcome back onto the screen, Holly.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm here. I have bottles. I'm ready.
Okay. You survived your Snowtoberfest, and now you're ready for real drinks.
I mean, listen, I'm not a big beer drinker, but I went to college. I know how to do this stuff.
That's right.
I know.
It's like riding a bicycle. It comes back eventually.
Sure. Hey guys, thanks for having me.
It is always a pleasure. You have joined us for so many different things, whether it's Halcyon tours, whether it's talking about, podcasting, talking about Star Wars and Full of Sith, your Star Wars podcast. You are, and we have several folks over the next several weeks that fit in this category. You're one of those great multi-hyphenates, and you have added author, podcaster, convention stage panel host. You do so many things. Here's what we're going to do first of all, because everybody loves talking about themselves. In the off chance some person accidentally stumbled in here and doesn't know who Holly Frey is, please tell us a little bit about yourself, the things you do, and then we're going to transition into talking about this amazing book.
Okay. Such a rough question. Hi, Holly Frey. I podcast for my job. I host a podcast called Stuff You Missed in History Class and another called Criminalia, and I executive produce shows on occasion for iHeartRadio, and that's what I do by day. And then I also host Full of Sith for my Star Wars fix, because I love Star Wars desperately. And as you said, occasionally I host stuff at cons and whatnot. I don't know. What else do I do?
You're a amazing cosplay and costume maven. You make things, you sew things. I have an amazing watermelon shirt because you design awesome fabrics.
The limited, very limited edition.
Very limited edition.
Yeah.
Honored by that. But you do a little bit of all of it, and that's one of the many reasons we love you. You are also coming to us live from Cabe's Oasis, which is the Star Wars cantina you and your husband have built into your house.
Yeah. Who doesn't want that? Listen,
I've been there, so I try not to brag when Pete's on screen about the fact that I've been there. It's every bit as fantastic. And what you're seeing on the screen, if you're watching us live or if you watch this on the replay, is only but a tiny bit. Like, there's a whole, other thing. We've done some other interviews with you when you were in different parts of it.
Yeah. I would swing the camera around, but I would drop something. Otherwise.
That's right. That's okay. We don't have to get into that.
Yeah. My dream, as I like to always tell people, and I'll just keep saying it into the world so it manifests, is that I win the lottery, I buy out a chunk of houses in our neighborhood, and each of them has its own weird bar. So we can do a bar crawl.
Yes.
Who doesn't want that?
I'm gonna lobby to buy one of those houses just to live close to it. But also, and because Star Wars is a big part of what you do, of course, Stuff You Missed in History Class, which I run into more people when I talk about Stuff You Missed in History Class, and like, oh my God, I love that podcast. And I'm like, I know her, and I love it too because I love history. No, she's not awful, but you are, and you and your wonderful husband Brian, who is also a great friend of our show. Y'all are dedicated Disney folks, Indiana Jones. Like, there's so many things. And you talk about, win the lottery, get houses in your neighborhood and different themed bars. You're only a few feet from another bar also in your house, which is a tiki bar. So, you're living it right. You're living the dream that a lot of us want, which is, I have multiple themed bars in my house. So let's not bury the lead entirely here. Yeah.
Yeah, the tiki bar is now kind of like the ice cream lounge, because when we built this bar, I felt bad that wasn't the coolest room in the house anymore. Now that's where we do like the soft serve, and we have like a whole little situation there. And it's where we build our Legos. But I would build a million kooky bars. I love that.
Hey, there's no shame in that game. Well, tonight's focus is, as much as we love Star Wars, and we may circle back to Star Wars here in a little bit, we're talking about killer cocktails. We both have our copies right here. Claire had hers. This is fantastic. And
I'll put the link to Amazon while you're talking. I'll put it in
this is available. It came out Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, 2 days ago. It came out. I highly recommend. this. If you love, I don't know, if you listen to Criminalia, talk a little bit about Criminalia, about that podcast specifically, and then, how that led to the book, what you've done. And then as we get into the drinks that Pete and I have made, we're going to kind of highlight some other fun things that you have done in there. But talk about the podcast and how it led to the book.
So Criminalia is a show that when I want to make sure as I tell this, I'm not blabbing anything I shouldn't. I mean, I don't think I would, but I'm just, so iHeartRadio, iHeart Podcasting Division has a deal with Shondaland Audio. So Shonda Rhimes' production company, they wanted to get into the podcast space. And for its launch, I was executive producing their slate. And my boss was like, hey, we need something in the history space. He had thrown some stuff at me and been like, is any of these like a potential jumping off point? And I ended up getting super invested in this idea of doing a show about historical true crime and specifically women poisoners, which is where it started. And then it was like, well, who should we get to host it? And I was like, me, I don't want to give this up anymore.
Right.
So I got to create this show. So it's sort of my baby, which is great. And then I brought in Maria Trimarchi, who is my co-host and my co-author on this book and is amazing and a really wonderful collaborator. And I had this like wild hair of like, wouldn't it be fun if I somehow made it part of my job that I have to drink? So, I mean, every Wednesday morning I'm at the liquor store buying supplies and it's sanctioned.
And it's for work.
It's super fun. So we added a cocktail segment, partially too, to like lighten it up because some of these stories are dark, and particularly the things that we have tried to shine a light on, especially in that first season, which was the Lady Poisoner season, is like a lot of these women that have been vilified. Like some of them, when you dig a little deeper, you find out like, oh, this woman is a poisoner and is teaching other women to poison because they have no recourse to get out of abusive marriages. Like we're talking way back in ancient Rome, and like this was their only way out. And so it starts to be, it's in a way it's nice because you're shifting the perspective on how people view them, but it's also like heavy stuff. You're talking about domestic abuse and like people having no agency. And so it was like, what if at the end of shows like that we could just have a cocktail and like smooth it out a little bit on the finish.
Take the edge off the murder a little bit.
So that's how we started doing the cocktail segment. And as we've gone through each season, the cocktail segment takes on a slightly different tone, which is just me being a ding dong and trying to make it hard for myself. Like we did a season on art heists, and unbeknownst to my co-host, I was making every drink match the colors in the piece of art that had been stolen. And she didn't figure it out. I kept thinking like, oh, this one's a dead giveaway. And then finally at the end of the season, we always do a wrap-up episode where we talk about our 3 favorite stories and our 3 favorite cocktails or mocktails from the season. And I thought she had figured it out and she didn't, and I got to spring it on her. But the other thing that we started to do is one of our seasons was about people who were imposters, like criminal level imposters. And so for that season, we did mocktails, and we had such a good response to it that, I had some people reach out and be like, hey, I don't drink, or I'm sober, or I just don't like to drink. Will you keep doing some mocktails? And so from then on, we just started doing it where every drink has both an alcoholic and non-alcoholic versions. Nice. Sometimes they taste very similar, but sometimes there are things where if we do a very spirit-forward drink, there's really no way to make that a mocktail. So we kind of give the mocktail its own identity. So every drink in the book has a non-alcoholic version, which sometimes the mocktail versions are end up being my favorites because they're just like easy drinks that you can just sip all day long and feel no guilt or concern.
I love that. And I want to kind of focus on that for a minute. And maybe this is a great opportunity. Pete and I agreed that we would both individually select a cocktail from the book, make it, be ready tonight. So I'm going to reveal what mine is because my story partially connects to what you're talking about with the mocktails. One of my twins, I have twins, they're 16 years old. They're both super obsessed with music, all these different things. And my daughter, Lily, she's in a huge Beatles phase right now. So,
I know what you made.
In the book, there is a story about it's the tale of George Harrison's stalkers, and it says in parentheses, yes, plural. We've got it right here. It's page 51 in the book. And so the cocktail that goes with it is called the Peppery Sergeant. And I have made the Peppery Sergeant right here in my Cabe's Oasis glass. And what the Peppery Sergeant contains is whiskey, which is never in short supply at my house, club soda, and a Southern specific thing in my mind, I don't know, jalapeno jelly.
Yeah.
And so those are the three ingredients. Very separate, very specific. I made this, and she texted me earlier today, and she said, Dad, because I told her about it when the book came in the mail. And of course, as I was flipping through, I was like, this has to be it, which is why I did a Snoketoberfest toast out of my Beatles glass, also as a connecting point.
I didn't even get that.
It's all coming together.
So it's all coming together. So she texted me, she said, Dad, is it worth it for me to try that drink if you leave out the alcohol? And I said, I don't really think so. There's only 3 ingredients. And then a split second later, I went, hold on. There's a mocktail version.
That's awesome.
In the book, in every single recipe, there's the mocktail that goes with the thing. And I said, actually, this is perfect. So on my way home, I stopped and I grabbed the ingredients in order to create the mocktail version of the Peppery Sergeant. And it called for chai tea. I didn't have a good, chai tea substitute readily available. So we did ginger ale to give them kind of the bite and the flavor. My oldest 2 were like, oh, this is good. Like they're 100% in. But I have my Peppery Sergeant. You can actually see some jalapeno flakes, some pepper flakes there in the glass.
Yum.
It's quite tasty. So I love that you have the mocktail element in it. And I know multiple people who, have given up drinking, who are sober, who have included. And so I think that's really special. And I think that's really thoughtful that you included that as a part of this book. And I think that's really great that was a focus that you continued to put on that.
Yeah. I mean, that's been a really fun challenge for me too, right? Like, I mean, when we started this, like I have been drinking for a very long time. I love to drink. I am a hobbyist hooch hound, but I realized like just a few episodes in, I was like, I'm like a dilettante. I don't really know what I'm doing. So I went to bartending school so that I would have better skills. And I feel like even though I did that, and like just to get a really base understanding of like how different things go together, how to balance a drink, etc. But even though I did that, like the mocktails have been a really fun and unique challenge because it is different. It's one of those spaces. I think most of the people that I know that don't drink get really tired of like you go to a bar and their mocktail offerings are, well, I could do cranberry
Shirley
juice
Temple
soda with a lime in it, which is fine.
Right.
But like it's kind of like the people that are vegetarian and everywhere you go, all they have is like a roast pepper flatbread. Like it's the same problem. So it's been really, really fun to find ways that, just like your average day-to-day drink can feel a little bit more elevated and a little more fun and just, makes every day have a little bit more shine on it.
Yeah. I love that. Well, Pete, what cocktail did you select as you?
Well, I didn't make it yet, so I'm gonna have to make it, but it's good.
Okay,
it's only 3 ingredients. Because I'm a simple man with trying to make my way through the galaxy. And in honor of the upcoming Skeleton Crew show, I selected the Vanishing Pirate.
Which
That's
is
a
here. Yummy one.
It's a very simple. It's 3 ingredients. I'll make it in just a second. It's on page 103 of the book. And this one thing I was actually telling my son about it after football practice tonight on the way home. I was like, so when we get home, I have to see what we have for alcohol. And he was like, well, that sounds like a problem, Dad. But he was excited because he's like, are there stories? Is it just a recipe book or are there stories in it? And he's like, and I told him there's stories. And so he's going to, he's kind of into all the, like the slightly off the beaten track kind of stories. And all theyese stories are great. And there's something that fun and short to read. And there's an audiobook version of this, correct? Is that right?
There is. Maria and I recorded the audiobook. That was the most bananas 2 days maybe of my life. It's so hard to audiobooks are just exhausting. And because you're just reading, you're talking for 9 hours at a stretch, like a couple days in a row. And it was really fun. But one of the things that was really funny is that, we record normally, we're in 2 different places. And so we can, while the other person is talking, cough, drink our soda, etc., whatever. But when we did the audiobook, we're in the same room, so you have to be dead silent while the other person is talking. And there were times where, one of the other of us would just forget this information and be like, paper shuffle, slap, slap, slap around. Like it was like, no, Holly, you gotta stop moving.
You gotta stop moving. Stop making a mess. You're screwing up the audio. I can't imagine. I mean, I've tried to do an audiobook version of some of the stuff I've done, and just even like a 20-minute short story just takes me the whole freaking day, and then editing, the spacing, and it's not easy. All right, well, here it is in my Cabe's Oasis glass.
Oh, matchy tonight.
Yeah, look at that, everybody.
All right, well, I'm gonna try this. Let's see here. Wow, that is really good. And I feel like I could accidentally drink like 7 of these and not know where I am in a couple minutes. It's just I didn't say what's in it. It's elderflower liqueur. It's an strawberry vodka, and it's 6 ounces of ginger beer. And anything with ginger beer and ice is deadly because it just goes down like
but the real deadly part is the elderflower liqueur, because I don't know if you know this, but it's called bartender's ketchup. Because if you're ever like making a recipe, and I just like it on its own, but if you're making a recipe and you can't quite get it to balance properly, or it just doesn't have the right mouthfeel, if you just toss in some elderflower liqueur, it'll usually smooth everything out.
Well, and the funny thing about it is, I've just recently discovered it. I don't even remember what it was. I was making some cocktails, so I had to go buy it. And it was actually another drink with whoops, did I just move? Can you hear me?
Yes,
yeah.
We can hear
Okay.
you.
I can't, but that's okay. But it is definitely that and ginger beer, and then any combination thereof is it's just the elderberry, it's just super smooth. You can almost drink it on its own. And this is really good, and this is going to be a problem. So thank you very much, Holly, for creating issues for me. So
I love it. I am having one that also has ginger beer in it. I am having a white toad, which is related to the story of Sally Bassett, who was an enslaved woman who was accused and convicted of poisoning her granddaughter's enslavers, which now she's kind of seen as a folk hero in Bermuda. But for this one, it's a super yummy one. White toad was the name of the poison that she is said to have used. And it's an ounce of vanilla vodka, 3/4 of an ounce of ginger liqueur, and then 5 ounces of ginger beer. And it's just like, it was an early one that we did on the show, and it has stuck with me ever since. Like, I make it all the time for friends. There's a version of it in the bar menu. I have a Star Wars version where we call it a white gorg. It's become a favorite amongst our circle.
And now, you being a mixologist on top of everything else, to all your
multi-hyphenate, baby.
That word is very douchey in bartending circles.
It feels, honestly, I feel kind of douchey saying it. As somebody who likes to make drinks and is very good at it, there we go. Do you find that like the infused vodkas and some of the liqueurs, well, liqueurs of course make a difference because it leads with that, but like some of the and this one, it's a strawberry infused vodka, which ordinarily doesn't have an overpowering strawberry taste, but it brings something to it. Do you find, like, how do you feel that plays into making some of these drinks?
The thing is, right here is one of my favorite things, and it's part of like our whole ideology for the book is that nobody needs to be like beholden to any of this to the letter. Like, the whole idea is to give people like the comfort and the tools to be able to be like, I would like this to taste a little more like this, and kind of know where they can play with it. And so that's actually a great way to shift flavors around, is just to be like, well, I like this drink, but I think if it were a vodka that had a grapefruit note or, whatever, you can do that. Here is my tip that I give everyone. If you have a regular drink that you make that's like, your go-to easy peasy, whether that's like an old fashioned or a Collins or like anything. If you do a quick infusion on your base spirit with like a tea bag, it changes everything and makes it amazing, and people think you're fancy. Like if you make a vodka Collins or a Tom Collins, but you've infused your spirit with like a green tea beforehand, people are like, what is this? It tastes so fresh and bright. It's like, dude, it took me 20 minutes to like throw some vodka in a can and I mean, it's like an easy way to just shift gears and make it something a little more interesting. You know, like I have nothing against like spirit and mixer, but even that you can make a little bit more interesting and kind of get out of your rut.
I did notice it's the first time I've seen it is, you know, you had use a tea bag for this one or that one in the book, and that's so cool. And it's definitely something I'm gonna have to try.
Listen, my autumn friends, this is not in the book, but if you do like a pumpkin tea infusion with your bourbon or your whiskey and you make an old fashioned that way, it's super autumnal, it's super easy, it's like no extra effort, and you have something that's seasonal and really a little more interesting than your day-to-day.
That's fantastic. That's awesome. Cool.
It's so great. And again, Holly has done this for Star Wars. Like I said, not to brag too much, Pete, I'm sorry, but I have been to Cabe's Oasis, and she has a menu. Like, she has printed up things. She's like, what do you want? And I literally said, let me sit in this chair that feels like I'm, yeah, exactly, right there on the screen.
Oh my goodness.
But I said, you know, let me just sit here and make me things. And for several hours, we got to hang out. And she's like, well, what about this? I was like, if you bring it to me and put it in my face, I'm going to drink it. And they're all fantastic. They're thought out. They're special. There was the shot with the bubble and the smoke. There was the bacon. Yeah. Actually, that may have been the same thing.
No, at that point you didn't know.
There's one called the Gold Leader that we do that is it's like a pineapple-y ginger. There's a little bit of cinnamon liqueur in there. We glaze the glass with cinnamon liqueur, and then I like to do a bacon infused bourbon with it, and it's just super yummy and delicious.
Again, winners across the board. If you know you like, and you talked about the tea bags, Pete. I did the Indiana Jones show last summer. In fact, Holly, I think you were on with me for that. Before what's the last one called?
Dial of Destiny.
Dial of Destiny. Before that came out, we did the podcast of the Wills. We deep dived into Indy. We had the cocktail, and that one was it had the jalapeno syrup. And so I bought jalapenos and I boiled them down and reduced it and made the syrup. And it sat in my fridge, and I was like, this is great. And I used it for multiple things.
Yeah.
White Lightning to sub for vodka in the drinks. Yes. That becomes a whole different party altogether.
Yes, but you can do it. And you know the Brita trick, right? Like if you have, it works for vodka. It works for the clear liquors. Like if you have a vodka or a moonshine, if you run it through a Brita filter, just in your pitcher or whatever, it will taste so much better after that, because it's like doing one more, almost like one more distillation pass. So if you have moonshine and you want to put it in there, highly recommend a Brita pass first.
That's the way amazing to go. Well, this book is phenomenal. Pete put the Amazon link in there. Get it. Yep. I know Brian posted a video on Twitter that it's at Barnes & Noble. It's available in a whole bunch of places. I cannot encourage you enough to check it out. Like I said, my 16-year-old who loves the Beatles was excited that I picked the one I picked. But she's also my kid that's everybody in my house is into true crime. And, half the time I come home, my wife and my older two are, what's the next murder doc we can watch? What's the next, whatever. And she was like, I'm going to read all the stories. And that's the thing that we've buried the lead just a tiny bit on, is there are cocktails in this book, but every single one has a story connected to it. Who the killer is, who the person is, whatever the situation.
Yeah. And for people that listen to the podcast, about half of the stories in this book are from the podcast, so they're abridged versions. But then the other half and the other, half of the drinks are all brand new. So there's a mix of new and old. And I know for a lot of people that listen to the podcast, like one of the reasons we ended up making the book is that we kept getting people pinging us and being like, but will you put this online somewhere? Will you publish this so I don't have to try to write it down in my car while I drive home? And so that's really, kind of the genesis of it. And now there's lots of new stuff with it. So
it's fantastic. We truly encourage everybody to pick up a copy of it. I loved it because, of course, I love you. I love all the things that you do. I'm excited and thankful that we've gotten to be friends. It also reminds me of the earliest days of Podcast of the Wheels when I went live on Sunday nights and tried to have a specific cocktail for every guest. And I think I got as far as like 10 or 11 or 12. I lost steam at some point. Pete's was literally like, yeah, it's a shot and a beer. Like you go to a bar, like you're the regular.
That's how much he thinks of me. He's like, this guy would be happy with
Pete
that.
Didn't get the effort. It was a tough week. But it's so much fun. Everybody, please check this out. Holly, we're going to get you out of here, but tell everybody about where they can find you, where they can find the podcast, stuff you missed.
I'm making more of this while you do that, because that was.
You can find me. I'm still on Twitter as Surliest Girl and on Instagram as SurlyGirly5. Sometimes you get free drink recipes in those places. You can find me yapping at Stuff You Missed in History. Class is at Missed in History. Criminalia is, continues apace. We are in the middle of our crime duo season, which has been actually kind of a downer. There's a lot of dark stuff in this one. But the drinks are fun. And Full of Sith is always available. So there's plenty of Star Wars chatteroo. I think those are the main places you can find me. You can find the book literally anywhere books are sold. Whether that be Amazon, your local Barnes and Noble, your Books A Million, your, all of the places.
I would also recommend either through the Full of Sith channel or here on the ATG SSW Network channel, find the interview you did with Pablo Hidalgo, which was probably one of the highlights of Podathon this year, and the only story that got picked up. The only one that turned into news around the internet. Pablo says a little something about Obi-Wan Kenobi series that got people a little excited, which was great. And Pablo was just a real sweetheart for being a part of it, and you guys did such a great job with it. He is. But
you probably owe him a lot of cocktails for that, but we appreciate it nonetheless.
I bought him a few, so we're good.
Yeah,
we're good.
Exactly. It all works out.
Yes.
Awesome. Holly, we cannot thank you enough for coming on. We love this book.
For having me.
We will continue to preach the gospel of killer cocktails. We will continue to preach the gospel of Holly Frey, and we will definitely see you again sometime soon. Hopefully in person sooner rather than later.
That sounds grand. Thank you both so much. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming, Holly, and we'll be back in just a moment with more ATG Live.
What's up, my fellow Gen X Star Wars fam? My name is Chris Rhines from Broaxium. You may know me from ATG's Force Connect that I co-hosted with Pete and Nick. Now, I'm the owner and operator of Broaxium Outpost, an online shop for all your action figure and collectibles needs like Star Wars Black Series, G.I. Joe Classified, Star Wars Vintage Collection, Marvel Legends, Star Wars Black Series and Vintage Collection, Transformers Studio Series, Star Wars action figures, Masters of the Universe, and much, much more, including Star Wars action. All right, I have a lot of Star Wars stuff. I'm just saying. Stop by and check out the store at www.broaxiumoutpost.com. Sign up to become a part of the Bounty Hunters Guild and stay updated on new pre-orders, sales, and exclusive Broaxium content. Find something you like? Use the promo code ATG5 for 5% off your first order. We have Star Wars figures, by the way.
It's my favorite commercial that we run. I love that. And if you want the Transformers Star Wars N1 Starfighter, that's probably the place to get it. It'll probably be there first. So Nick seems to be a little bit frozen here on the screen, but that's okay. We can make this work as we do. Here we go. How's that? Is that better? Are you there?
Hey, I'm here.
Hello there.
Not know what happened. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there were two of you in my little waiting room down here.
Wow, that was very weird.
I wasn't sure what was going on. So, but hey, how are you? Welcome back.
Hey, welcome back.
Seriously, that book. I'm actually going to. I was going to give my copy to a friend of mine who's a big fan of the podcast and things, but Holly signed it for me, so I'm gonna have to just buy her one separately.
Correct.
But the book, honestly, it's great because it's it's not just a list of cocktails. It is stories and fun that go along with it.
It's so much great stuff. And like I talked about, one of my 16-year-old daughters is into murder documentaries and all that thing. And of course, she loved the Beatles and loved that I picked that one. But like when I get done tonight, I'm going to take this book in the house and she's going to read all the stories that are in this because it fits right in with her interest and that kind of stuff. So there's so much fun to be found in this book. Highly recommend everybody pick it up.
Absolutely.
And it's beautifully done. Like you can always appreciate like a great book, illustrations, diagrams, the cover is great. It's got all the things that you look for and just it's a good book. Like
it's got all the things you look for in a book, like pages, words, and
pages, covers, titles, the usual.
And drinks for sure.
Exactly. And drinks most of all.
Well, before we get out of here tonight, there were a couple comments in the chat tonight that we wanted to just touch on real quick. Remember, we do that here, but drop this one.
That's right. We love hearing from you guys. We've seen a bunch of folks hanging out tonight. KG, Benny, Half Moth, Carney's Ride. Matt was here earlier. Brian Finnessy. Love it when our friends are hanging out. Love when everybody's here. I wanted to bring up this comment. This is from Benny Relp. It goes back to the news story about Jake Lloyd. Benny says, question for Nick and Pete. If Jake's mom offered her son to you for a 15-minute interview on the podcast, would you accept or decline? Pete, I'm going to throw that to you first.
Oh, you're going to make me answer first.
Let you, jump in there.
Well, so to be clear, I don't think, I know for a fact I wouldn't ask for an interview at this point based on everything we said earlier. If she said, look, I'm trying to, Jake wants to get out and talk to people. And we found your show and it's the kind of place we want him to be. Yeah, I would do it. I think it would probably be, what a lot of people don't know is when we have even our biggest name celebrities on the show, the amount of pre-work we do with them is very little because we really want to capture that moment when Star Wars fans meet. I mean, when you saw Greg Grunberg on with us laughing the first time and coming back and asking about, how we're doing, that was a genuine, pure, there was no, hey, Greg, we're going to ask you these 6 things when you come on. But I think with Jake, if we were given that chance, it would be the most buttoned up 15 minutes we've ever done, I think, just to make sure, because again, recognizing that mental health issues are no joke. And if somebody wants to do that, we want to be there to help them and be there for them and be part of how they get there. But I certainly wouldn't proactively ask, I don't think at this point.
Yeah, and I agree with you completely. It would be something that if offered, we would want to ask the right follow-up questions to say, is this something y'all want to do? He wants to do, just it has to be the right moment. And if it's the right moment, if it's protected, and we would certainly pre-record that, we would make sure that, ultimately, even if we edited something, and we've done this before, we've sent guests, hey, here's the edit of what we want to do. We don't edit to try and manipulate words. Sometimes we edit for our nonsense, like I said too many times, or, whatever the thing is, we want it to be the most accurate representation if it could. So yes, Benny, back to your original point. In the right situation, I would love for Jake to have the opportunity to speak if that's something that he wanted to do. But I would never say, hey, we want you to do this because Star Wars fans want it or are owed it or, whatever. It's a comfort level thing. So
for sure. Yeah. But just to, I've had, it's really interesting because before Phantom Menace came out, there was that time when Star Wars celebrities would sit at tables at cons and people would walk by them because they didn't engage them. And those days are certainly over. So, and again, with the sort of history of Hayden Christensen coming back, Ahmed Best getting his appropriate applause. Again, I don't think we're going to see that for Jake, and I think we need to be okay with that and be perfectly happy for him at every step of the way.
Yep. That's it. in the right situation, we'd love for him to have the opportunity to tell his story, talk about where he is, what, Star Wars has meant to him. But, we're not owed anything. And more importantly than anything else, we just want him to have a good, happy, peaceful life. So if he gets that, he doesn't have to talk to anybody.
Yeah, for sure. Were there any other comments we wanted to hit on real quick before we?
I think that hit most of it. Like I said, we had great friends hanging out. Brian did mention at some point, no actual poisons were used in the recipes in these drinks. That is good to know. But yeah, another great night. Thankful to Holly. Excited for Claire. Another great night of talking Star Wars.
Yes, and next week, Nick, we have.
Next week, we have our friend Jim Fagan.
Yes.
Jim is the third member of the Yub Nub podcast. We've had Greg Iwinski multiple times. Tim Barnes was on just last week. And Jim is the third member of that team and that crew. You saw him during Podathon back in May, but this is actually our first chance to get him on with a little bit of solo spotlight on his career, also as a TV writer and as a Star Wars fan. So we're looking forward to hanging out with him and talking about anything that's going on.
And we have a full slate all the way up right now, up until Thanksgiving. And guys, we're thinking about doing it again. We are going to be doing Star Wars Match Game coming up, possibly Thanksgiving week. So make sure to stick with us. We'll be taking applications for guests on that pretty soon. But we would love for you to hang out. But again, every week, the next 6 weeks is packed with good, fun stuff. We can't
including sorry, I don't want to jump in there, including we've got a couple of Around the Galaxies on deck as well. The straight up original podcast version, not just the live show. We've got one that we're working on a scheduling issue. There's actually, this one's not a secret. We've talked about it before. Alex Segura wrote the Battle of Jakku comic series. He's been on with us before, Poe Dameron Freefall. We're working on some scheduling things, getting him recorded. But we have another one that is either
can't wait for that one.
The Monday or Tuesday, not next week, but the week after. Somebody who's been on my list for a very long time that I can't wait to talk to. Some fun stuff coming up. So if you're a patron, keep your eyes peeled. There may be some information coming your way for that. And for everybody else, it's going to show up in the actual podcast feed and Around the Galaxy with somebody I'm really excited to talk to.
It's going to be a blast. Things are getting fun here at ATGLive. And again, we can't thank you enough for hanging out with us. Consider joining us for 99 cents a month. You'll get a little tiny, you'll get some emoticons. Do they call them emoticons? Did I just pull that word out of 1998? Perhaps emoticons, Jesus. Emojis, you'll get a little badge, 99 cents a month. It'll keep us going. That'll be enough to keep me in ginger beer for a couple weeks. But Nick, this has been another great week and looking forward to doing this once again. In the meantime, may the force be with you.
Always.
Just one more round, friend, then homeward bound, friend. Don't forget me in your dreams. Just one more song, friend, and then so long, friend. The nights get shorter, it seems. Just one more rhyme, friend. Yes, it's a crime, friend. But you know time, friend. Time can fly. So it's good night, friend. Good night, but not goodbye.